everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I have a fun card to share with you. This card was made using a new SVG file that I will be giving away over on my blog today for free. If you want to check that out, you can head down to the link below. That will be in the description box. So my file I cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. It is a full A2 size card front. This also has several lines of hearts. I counted the number of lines and I grabbed all of my ink colors to create a rainbow background. Each row of hearts is going to be a different color. These are all Catherine Pooler inks that I am using, and I am going in rainbow order. Pretty simple. Now the thing here is I want to make sure that I get the colors right on this. I don't want them to overlap at all. You could easily blend this out and create a beautiful blended background, but I want this to be color blocked. So I am overlaying my SVG cut card front onto a piece of paper. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock as well. It lines up perfectly, and then I'm taking a pencil and I am just marking the top and bottom of each heart. I do that about 3 times. That way I can go through and get the rows right with my painter's tape when I go to mask this off. I like to use a pencil and then come back in with a rubber eraser, a rubber kneaded eraser, and just pounce up and down on the pencil lines. That's going to take up some of that lead and make it a little bit of a lighter mark. You're still going to be able to see where everything is, but if you're like me and very forgetful and you forget to erase your lead completely whenever you've marked off your area, when you go and you ink blend over that and then you can't erase it, it's not such a big deal. Now for my painter's tape, I am using the purple low tack painter's tape. I'm using 2 pieces here, one on top and one on bottom. That's just going to mark off the row completely so I can come in and add my ink through that. Then, this time I did remember to come back in and fully erase those pencil lines. You have made, if you use a kneaded eraser and you really lighten them up, it's not going to be a big deal if you forget, and your hearts are going to line up, so you will be able to barely see them. But I like to come in and just completely erase them, so that way if I'm a little off, it's not going to show up. Again, you could easily blend this on with a brush. You can use a sponge. You can use a finger applicator. I like to just come in straight from the ink pad. Makes it nice and quick and easy. And the great thing about the Catherine Pooler inks is I know I can put this on with the ink pad and it's going to look streaky at first. However, as this sits and absorbs into the paper, it kind of evens itself out, so all those streaks will go away. That's really great about dye inks. Most of them are going to do that no matter what brand you use. Once I finish that first row, I do let it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come in and move my painter's tape. This is really great because you can reuse those same pieces over and over again. I use pretty much the same 2 pieces for the entire card. All I do is move them around as I'm creating my new lines. Now for this next one, same process. Covered up the top line with a piece of painter's tape so I didn't come back and get any ink on it. And then I covered up my bottom one wherever I need my next line to end so I don't go into the next row of hearts. And once again, I came in straight from the ink pad. It does look streaky when it goes on, but as it settles into the paper and dries, it will even itself out. I kept repeating this process through all the colors that I had chosen. And if you like these colors, I will leave the names of them listed down below in the description box, so you can find these on scrapbook.com or the Catherine Pooler website as well. But I just finished up this last strip, and then I took off the painter's tape and just did a quick check to make sure that everything lined up perfectly, and I absolutely adore the way this background turned out. Now, to make my sentiment pop a little bit, I wanted to add something behind it to kind of pull it away from that background. So I had a few little leftover die cuts. These are actually leftover cuts from an SVG file that I'll have around Christmas time for you. But little leaves like this are included in a lot of different die sets. They're not that hard to come by. I took out a couple of these and I'm using 3 different colors of green ink to sponge those on and create some green leaves. I also left some white as well, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto a little banner. This sentiment actually comes from a stamp set that I drew and designed that is available at Joy Claire Stamps. Again, I'll leave that listed and linked down below too. I stamped the Hello My Friend with VersaFine Claire in Onyx Black ink right onto that banner, and now it's time to put everything together now that I have all of my pieces created. I'm using liquid glue to attach my heart SVG cut file to the background. I'm going sparingly with this, but I'm using glue because there are so many fine little areas where I need this to adhere down. And because I also want a little bit of play time to be able to move this around and really line it up so I get a perfect alignment with this. There are a lot of different rows, and I wanted to make sure that it lined up perfectly so I don't have any colors popping through where they're not supposed to. And then I went ahead and attached the entire front to a card base. This card base is A2, so 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I used liquid glue for this as well. Now it's time to kind of build my little leaves that I want poking out from behind the sentiment. To do that, I like to play around with them a little bit at first and just move them around on the card front itself. Then I'll overlay my banner to make sure I like it. If I do, I'll use the adhesive on the back of the banner, press it down, and pick those up. I did a little cluster of leaves on the top right corner and also the bottom left of that sentiment strip. That way it just adds a little something extra to that sentiment strip, helps it pop out from that busy card background a little bit more, and just gives it a little bit more interest. I also used dimensional adhesive on the back of the banner as well. That's going to hold everything in place. It's also going to give a little bit of room for those leaves behind the sentiment, and it's going to add a little bit more dimension, so a little bit more shadow to that banner as well. I also added a few little sprigs of white leaves to this as well, just for a little bit of contrast, and it adds a little more bulk to those leaf clusters. I finished this card off by attaching that sentiment strip, and then I added a ton of little jewels. These jewels you can find at a ton of different scrapbooking stores, a ton of different card making, stamp making companies. These are just the little half-back jewels. You can even find them on Amazon for pretty cheap with a bunch of different colors in them. I will leave a link or a few links to them down below of different kinds and different companies that have them. One thing I will mention to put these down, I like to use a really strong liquid adhesive like Glossy Accents or even super glue will work. And I like to use a quick sticks tool to put these down as well so I don't get glue everywhere. But that does it. I hope you guys enjoyed a look at how I made this card. Don't forget to head over to my blog for the free SVG file. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Happy crafting!